Hello, 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 and thank you. Welcome everyone here from the Game to Grace, and I am your co-host Candace Hayes.
And I'm Jarius Hayes.
And so today, listen, we're going to be talking about blended families and how some blended families have worked out well and some may have not worked so well. And why? Why is that? So we'll go ahead and we'll dive in to what we're going to be talking about today. We have four questions for you. The first question uh, is it or was God the center of it all, of the family unit? And why is that important? And why is that a question?
Well, really, God should be the center of your family, period, whether it's blended or not blended, because having a family is challenging enough uh, without God, and to have a blended family and God not be the center of it, you're looking for it to be that could be trouble. So because when God is the center of it all, and you want to have God the center of it because you're bringing in so many different people. You want God's wisdom, you want God's direction, you want God's blessing, you want God's peace, you want God's grace, so to
Yes.
speak.
Yeah.
So you want God to be the center, and like when we first got married, we really didn't talk a lot about the blended family. However, our focus was on God, and I think a lot of what we didn't know, because our relationship with God, we was able to overcome because of it. So, but when God is the center, like I said, the God should be the center of whether you have a blended family or not, because uh, that's the only way that you can, be victorious in having a family or blended family. So I think God should be the center of it to where he can lead, guide, and direct you uh, through it all.
Yeah, and I think that's true. And then I think even with with our upbringing, with your dad being a pastor and my dad being a pastor, we kind of watched how they did things as far as a family unit.
Because we didn't really have any counseling when it comes to this blended family,
Right.
but we did have good upbringing through our families. And
Right.
so the old saying goes, there's more caught than taught. And so what we saw on a daily basis, we were able to apply to our family because of the environment we grew up in and what we saw on a daily basis. But we didn't have anybody sit us down and counsel us, but we did have an example before us on a daily basis throughout, our upbringing. So, and that was what we applied to our family. It wasn't perfect, and some of the stuff may not we should have used, but uh, our heart, our hearts was right,
Right.
and so when the man and the woman come in with a good heart, pure heart, good intentions, saying God, I believe God is willing to uh, show up in that situation and uh, give you wisdom, give you understanding, and but our counseling, so to speak, was from how we were brought up by our
Yeah.
upbringing. So
What we saw before
what
us.
we saw before us, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So, and here's another one. Should there be an adult to an adult conversation when going into either dating or even talking about tying the knot, marriage, or just all of those, together? Should there be an adult to an adult conversation? And The reason why I asked that question is, because their expectations might not be what your expectations are for the family unit that those two people, are the vision that man has for that family unit. So,
And when you say adult conversation, you mean between the husband and wife, or between the husband and wife and the father or mother of the children that you're bringing in?
correct. The other parents.
Okay, I
Yeah, the
got you.
other
Okay.
parents.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And why, why should that be? Why should there be an adult conversation? Why?
Yeah, that's a good. I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't do it, and in a lot of cases, maybe the other parents don't want nothing to do with what y'all got going on. Like, if you get married, man, the fathers of the children or the mothers of the children that's getting brought into the family, they may not want to have nothing. They may not want to have no conversation or anything. You know what I'm saying? But those who do, I think it would be good to kind of sit down and have a conversation with them about, what's expected from both sides, with keeping the children in mind on, okay, we're doing all this for the best interest of the children. Well, whether we like each other or not,
yeah.
that has nothing to do with it.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't have to necessarily. I don't hate you, but I don't necessarily have to be really to like you, to respect you, and to sit down and have a decent conversation.
Yeah.
And have some kind of plan or some kind of layout on how we're gonna move forward with this blended family, with the children and things of that nature. But I just think when you sit down and have a conversation, there's no guessing. There's no, well, I thought. There's no, well, I didn't know. When you sit down and have a conversation, you bring all that to the table, and you can get rid of a lot of maybe conflict or riffraff or drama. You can kind of get rid of that
Yeah.
up front
Yeah.
and head it off before it
off.
rises up.
Yeah.
So,
Because sometimes people don't say anything, and that tension just
right.
keeps boiling and boiling and
Right.
boiling. And someone needs to speak up and say something, and be mature about the situation, because it's kids involved. And we should be mature. If you're an adult, you should be mature about the whole situation. And ultimately, it's about that child or the children. That's the whole thing.
Right.
So that's just always a question, and then why?
And like I say, there may be some people that don't want to have a conversation with you.
Yeah. Right.
But you can't worry about that.
Right.
If they don't want to have a conversation with you, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I think it would be good. Like I say, it's more than one way to do something. This is just a conversation. This is just suggestions. You know what I'm saying?
Or
only
preventative actions to take, to put in place.
Only you know what's best for your situation. Because what's best for our situation may not be good for another situation. So
yeah. And then I guess we need to kind of talk about what our situation was. Our situation was, we got married. We moved from Alabama to across the country. To Phoenix, Arizona. So some of those things that we're kind of talking about, it didn't really affect us. My kids were young. They were like 3 and 15 months. So the age barrier there, where they were just toddlers, coming into with Jairus and I dating, and then after that, then marriage. So really, they were just kind of like of course, brought into it, but all the other things that, some families you know, might, might be dealing with. Like, some families might have where their children are older, like 10, 15 years old. Then that's a different story.
Yeah, that's a whole
Yeah.
different story
Yeah.
because you take a look at maybe a 3-year-old versus somebody that's 10, 12, 14, and they're accustomed to being with their biological parents. Whether it's a man or a woman that's bringing children into the marriage, they're accustomed to that. Let's say they're accustomed to their father. So now their mother is getting married to somebody else, and now they got to get used to another man every day on a daily basis. And that might not be an easy transition for them. And as the adults, we have to understand that. That may not be easy for them. And it may be issues that arise, but that's also something that can be talked about before the marriage union.
Yeah.
Talk to the kid, especially when the kids are that age. That's something to be talked about before the marriage union, and tell them, okay, well, this is what's going to happen. I'm getting married. He'll be staying with us, and you know what I'm saying. And they may not like it at first, but like I said, you can't get upset with them because they're so accustomed to being with their biological parent. And you have to give them some grace and some time to get adjusted. But with God as being the center, I think if everybody goes in it with the right heart, God can work things out. Even in that situation, even if things start out kind of rocky. So because if things start out kind of rocky, they don't have to stay that way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, it's always choices.
and nobody wants drama. Nobody wants
Tension.
conflict. Nobody wants tension. Nobody wants
chaos.
chaos. Nobody wants that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, but that could be an issue to start out with if the kids are older versus with the kids being 2 or 3 years old. That's a big difference. Big difference.
So there needs to be, grace for adjustments in all of it, through all of that. So the next one is what was or what is the expectation of it all? Like what's the expectation of it? Like, so when we got married, what was your expectation of everything? Or did you have an expectation?
Well, when we got married, I don't want to say it was expectation. I just thought about how would the kids, how would they handle it? Even though they were still young, still they would have to get accustomed to me being around them all day instead of maybe an hour or 2 a day.
Part of the day, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
and then that could be vice versa too, because
on top of how would I handle
right.
being around them
Right.
most of the day versus just being around them an hour or so or 2 a day.
Right.
So the kids would have to adjust, and also I would have to adjust. Or it could have been, let's say, the man is bringing kids into the marriage, and the woman is single, and so now she has to get accustomed to being around the kids a lot more, and the kids got to get adjusted to being around her more. So whether it's the woman or man that's coming to the marriage, or it could be the woman is bringing kids into the marriage and the man is bringing kids into the marriage. And that's a whole nother level. So you got kids that's coming from 2 different backgrounds having to blend, and that sure enough could be chaos if you're not
You don't have any boundaries.
boundaries, if
Yeah.
you haven't had some conversations, getting some kind of wisdom or direction from God,
Because that's a lot of people.
that's a lot of
involved.
people that you
Yeah.
blending together
Yeah.
that's not accustomed to being together. And so, but my concern was more so, and I didn't really think about it. A lot of this stuff, we're talking about it now,
Yeah.
but a lot of this stuff we didn't think about back then.
Right. Yeah.
We just got together, got married, and did the best we could do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But we didn't do a lot of planning, talking. But God was just with us. So, but as I look back on it, I was like, man, I never thought about how I was gonna be able to handle being around them all day, them handle being around me all day. But you know, the things worked out. So, but that is something that probably need to be talked about beforehand. So that's what I think. So.
Okay. Okay. And then, so we talked about is God the center of it all? And we're just kind of going back on some of these questions. And when God is the center of it all, just making sure that you have wisdom and you're have that maturity level of thinking, and you have patience with that as well. And then having that adult to adult conversation, and just making it about the kids, not about you and the the other parent. It's always about the kid or the children. And then
Well, I say it's not always about the kids or children. I didn't think you meant to, but because I'm thinking when the husband and wife are together, it's easier for the children to follow suit.
right, yeah,
You know, when there's no conflict, when there's no drama between the husband and wife, I think the kids, whether they came into the family, or whether they came from the husband or whether they came from the wife, I think when they see a strong union between the man and the woman, then I think everything else will work well. But if it's chaos between the man and the woman,
it's going to be a tug between for the
Right.
children,
and so that's why I say
yeah,
it's about the kids, but it's not all about the kids.
yeah,
Because the adults have to make sure they're together.
yeah,
And when the adults are together, now it's not easy, but it's easier to deal with the kids now when the husband and wife are on one accord.
yeah.
So
That liberty to have the conversation will be so important.
it'll be a whole lot important. So
Yeah. And then as far as the kids respecting the bonus mom or the bonus dad,
right.
adjusting to that family unit will be important as well. And why I say bonus mom or bonus dad, it's just because I think that step parent thing, I just don't like the word, especially when someone is coming in and building something. And when you're building something, you're taking care of, responsibility. It's not, responsibility for a family and a family unit is it's major. It's a lot of work, that's involved. So,
and I say especially with,
yeah,
and it could be whether it's the man coming in, whether it's the man coming in without kids or the woman coming in without kids, there's a respect level that should be there because they're coming into something, pretty much a family that's already made, so to speak.
yeah,
and they're having to be unselfish, they're having to be loving, they're having to be understanding. They're already having to, I want to say, is the word sacrifice a good word? But they already have to show their unselfishness just by coming into a situation with their spouse that already has kids. And so they should be highly respected for that. Because truth be told, they could have kept going.
Yeah.
If they saw you had kids, oh, okay, that's all right. And so, but they did make a decision, and people say, well, they should have known what they was getting into. They knew that man had 3 kids. You know what I'm saying? You know how people be saying stuff. She knew what she was getting into.
Yeah.
She probably did.
Or
But
probably
still,
didn't.
probably didn't. But still, they deserve that respect. You know what I'm saying? From a perspective of, okay, these are not my biological kids, but I'm coming into this thing with my spouse, and we're gonna work together, and we're gonna do this. So, but they deserve respect. And so, if there is a respect, if there is some disrespect there between the children and the non-biological parent.
Yeah, because that thing is sometimes, especially coming in and then you're trying to be, trying to, show that disciplinarily, that discipline. It goes, they might say something like they get kind of angry because you're saying, hey, I need for you to do this, or I need for you to do this.
You're not my biological.
You're not my real daddy. You're not my real mama.
And I know that can
that's tension. That could be some tension,
and you have to be willing to forgive.
Yeah.
Because even though kids are smart and even though kids play games, I think you should forgive them because they're not as they are not as emotionally mature as
the adult is.
I'll say this, as an adult should be.
Yeah, right. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you got to kind of give them some leeway, and you got to give them time because they're getting adjusted.
Yeah, to all of that. Yeah.
And I'm not saying put up with no mess. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying, you can kind of tell if somebody, they said something or did something, and they said it, and they might have even meant it, but they just let the anger get a best of them versus somebody that's just trying to make your life miserable because they feel miserable, because they're in a situation that they don't really want to be in. And like I said, that's why conversations need to be had, you know what I'm saying? Because, it could be challenging. And I'm not saying it won't be challenging. It could be challenging, but it can be done.
So, and then the expectation of it all, and, we'll leave you guys with this, the expectation of it all, I think there needs to be, some plans, set in place, with those expectations, because, the woman might have a different expectation than the man may have, with either dating or even preparing to be a family unit. So there needs to be some type of conversation there of the expectation of what is expected of being a blended family, and things that you want to see work. So,
and blended families can be a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, they do work.
They do work. Yep.
And you could be the example for others to see that hey,
Yeah.
this can't wait, because you know your life may not have turned out exactly the way you wanted it to turn out,
Mm-hmm.
and you had uh, some issues come up along the way. You know what I'm saying? But blended families do work. There's successful blended families. There's also challenges in blended families,
Yeah.
where blended families can be a blessing and it don't have to be a burden. So
Absolutely. And uh, and we're just here to kind of give to help with where you can take preventative actions, for these things and not be blindsided,
right.
and this is just a way to not be blindsided going in, because those two people, come together and they're in love, and they're just, sometimes, these are some of the things that you really don't think about.
Right.
So this
Cause,
is,
because we didn't
we didn't think about some of the
we didn't
things,
think about some of the things.
and some of the things that did come up,
Right.
during, while we've been married,
Right.
29 years, some things did come up.
But God.
Yeah, right. The grace of God, He got us through it all. So we just hope this conversation, has helped, and hopefully some of these preventative questions, and then the answers that we kind of, gave you with that, we hope that has helped you. And at the end of the day, nobody wants tension, nobody wants drama, nobody wants chaos in their family unit,
Nobody.
and especially if they can help it.
Nobody.
So just allow that grace, for that grace and that adjustment, to be in there. Just keep that in there. And that's all that we have for y'all today. And if you join in the conversation, share this with the people that's out there that you think that might need it, and jump in on this conversation. And until next time, we'll see you later from the Game to Grace.